and brothers. It's time for some more of the Three Musketeers by Alexander Dumas. Written, written by Alexander Dumas, read by Philip Ganaway, or Abraxas Philip Ganaway, and brothers and friends and whoever else wants to join in. And you can join us where we last left off. High Adventure, Chapter 12. Milady's Murderous Deeds. As Planchet entered the gates of Paris 2 days later, Milady's carriage drew up to the gates of Buckingham's mansion. The Duke himself came out to greet her. "I am here, my lord, as the messenger of the Cardinal Richelieu," she said. "Well, well, so the Cardinal's spy has returned," said Buckingham. "I regret that I have no more diamond studs for you to steal. I'm here to warn you that if you send ships and supplies to La Rochelle, His Eminence will ruin Her Majesty. You may inform His Eminence that I shall not be persuaded either by his threats or by his spy's beauty. My ships shall leave for La Rochelle as planned." "You will regret those words, my Lord Buckingham," cried Milady, as she pulled a small revolver out of her purse. "Oh, my goodness!" In an instant, 4 guards grabbed her and pinned her arms behind her back. "Whew! I shall tell His Eminence that you will not change your mind," she said. "You shall tell His Eminence nothing," cried the Duke. "I'm having you locked up in the Tower of London, which is as nice a place as his Bastille." "You wouldn't dare!" "No? Lieutenant Felton, come forward," he called. A young officer stepped forward and bowed to the Duke. "Look at this woman, John," said Buckingham. "She is young and beautiful, but she is a monster. I am placing her in your care at the Tower because I know of your loyalty to me. I have saved your life on the field of battle and promoted you up through the ranks in my service. I have treated you as I would my own son. This woman has come to England to kill me. So be on your guard. She might try to kill you too." "My lord," said Felton, "your wishes shall be obeyed on my honor and on my life." John Felton could not have known at that moment how Milady could use a man's honor or his life for her own purposes. And her purposes now were freedom and revenge. She was determined to use the young jailer for both. Oh my goodness. She spent the first day and night in her cell on her knees in prayer, bursting into deep sobs when she heard Felton's footsteps approach. He was beginning to respect her as a religious person, like he was. She was tricking him. Then for days she refused all food, begging her jailer to let her die, or better still, to give her a knife to end her life more quickly. He was beginning to pity for her, falling for it. At last, when she was convinced that Felton's respect and pity had turned to love, she threw herself at his feet, crying, "Help me! Deliver me from my enemy!" "Who is your enemy?" he asked, gently lifting her to her feet and holding her. "The man who stole me away from my family when I was a pure young girl. The man who shamed me. The man you serve his loyalty." She lied, with tears running down her face. "Oh, my lady, surely you cannot mean the Duke of Buckingham," cried Felton. "It is he! It is he! Please let me die of this shame," she sobbed, throwing her arms around the young man's neck. "Woo!" "No, no," he said. "You shall not die. You shall live to have your revenge, and I shall help. Trust me, please, for I love you. I must leave now, so that I can arrange for your escape, my dear lady." As the door to the cell closed behind Felton, Milady smiled. Ah, Felton was hers. Sucker. When he returned 2 hours later, he led her quietly down the stone steps behind the prison. A small boat was tied up in the river below. They climbed in, and Felton picked up the oars. Pointing to a large slope anchored near the mouth of the river, I have hired that slope to carry you back to France, he said. You will be safe. But what about Buckingham? She cried. Do not let his evil deeds go unpunished. Buckingham is preparing to set sail for La Rochelle, said Felton. He must not leave England, she cried. Do not fear, my angel, whispered Felton, kissing her hand. He shall not leave. Oh, my goodness. Milady smiled a victorious smile. She gazed into the face of the young man seated next to her. The death of the Duke of Buckingham was written all over that face. Felton helped Milady aboard the sloop. He would return to shore, but he promised to be back on board by 10 o'clock to make the voyage to France with her. He had 3 hours to avenge this beautiful woman who had sworn her love to him and to other people. He headed towards the port, making his way through the troops marching towards the ships and through the crowds gathered to see them off. He felt for the knife hidden inside his jacket. Excuse me, I have some water. From a royal friend to an assassin. How troublesome. At that moment, he was jostled by a rather plump young man dressed in the clothing of a French lackey. Pardon, monsieur, said the man in French, but Felton didn't bother answering Planchet's apologies. He just clutched his knife a little more tightly. Both men seemed to be rushing through the crowd in the direction of the Duke's ship. Felton could see Buckingham ahead, proudly displaying his fleet to the ministers of King Charles. Planchet saw him too and began to run. Suddenly Felton burst through the line of noblemen. He leaped on the Duke and plunged his knife into his heart, crying, "Milady has been avenged!" As the guards surrounded Felton and pinned him to the ground, Planchet stopped and stared in horror. He was a moment too late. The Duke of Buckingham was dead. Murdered. Ah! The crowd was in an uproar as Felton was dragged away. A nearby clock struck 8, and Felton turned his gaze to the harbor. A sail of a sloop could be seen steering for the coast of France. The woman for whom he had sacrificed his life had not waited. I could have told you that. Let's keep going. Chapter 13. Murder follows murder. Oh my goodness! The adult version is even crazier. All right. The moment Milady reached the coast of France, she sent off a message to Richelieu at La Rochelle. Richelieu at La Rochelle. It read, "I have succeeded. Buckingham will never leave England again. I await your next orders, Milady." The following day, a carriage pulled up in front of the inn where Milady had spent the night. A tall, dark nobleman got out. The man was shown to Milady's room, and he greeted her with a smile. "Your message arrived at La Rochelle a few hours ago," said Count Rochefort. "His Eminence was most pleased with your success." "Ah, good," said Milady. "And now that the cardinal's business is done, I shall devote myself to my own plans. Has His Eminence discovered where Madame Monosix is?" "Of course, Milady," said Rochefort. "His Eminence always finds out what he wishes to know. She is at the convent of Bethune." "Then we must prepare for leaving immediately for Bethune," said Milady. They went down the stairs and into Rochefort's waiting carriage. The Count called to the coachman to head for the convent of Bethune, and they started off. Neither the Count nor Milady noticed the plump young man walking towards the inn from the ship that had just arrived from France. Neither did they realize that Planchet had recognized them and had heard Rochefort call out their destination. Bethune, he muttered. Well, that is where the Queen said Madame Bonacieux is hidden. I must warn my master. Planchet hired a horse and rode at top speed for La Rochelle. In 2 hours he burst into D'Artagnan's tent, panting. Welcome, Planchet, cried D'Artagnan. You arrive at our moment of victory. La Rochelle has fallen. But what news do you bring? I fear, sire, that all is lost. The Duke has been murdered. Murdered! Cried D'Artagnan. My God, that evil woman again! But that is done. What news do you have of Constance? She is at the convent of Bethune, sire, but others are already on their way there. Others? Which others? Milady and Rochefort, explained Planchet, as he told his master what he had heard at the inn. Oh, no! Cried D'Artagnan. My two deadliest enemies are about to murder my love. I must leave for Bethune immediately. Quickly, Planchet summoned Athos, Porthos, and Aramis, while I arranged for a leave. Meanwhile, the carriage bearing Milady and Rochefort entered the courtyard of the convent. Wait for me here, said Milady. This vengeance shall be mine alone. Milady got out of the carriage and presented herself to the Mother Superior at the door of the convent. I am here on orders of His Eminence, the Cardinal, said Milady. Come in, my child, ordered the nun. How might we welcome you? I have brought a message from His Eminence for Madame Bonacieux, said Milady. Oh, poor Constance has been so lonely all these months. How she will welcome you. Her room is just at the top of the stairs. You will find her at her prayers. Milady climbed the stairs and knocked at the door. A sweet voice called, Come in. Ah, Madame Bonacieux, said Milady sweetly. I would have known you anywhere. After all that he has told me about you, I recognize you perfectly. Who has told you about me? Asked Constance. Why, D'Artagnan, of course. D'Artagnan? You have seen him? But of course, my dear child. He is on his way here for you now. He asked me to ride ahead and help you get ready. D'Artagnan is coming for me? Oh, how I have dreamed of that for months. He is several hours behind me, so you need not rush, my dear. We shall have time for dinner and a chat. Their dinner was brought into the room a short time later. Constance was too nervous to eat, but Milady insisted that she would need her strength for the ride back to Paris. So she let Milady put a piece of chicken on her plate and pour out some wine for her. But as Milady poured the wine into Constance's glass, she opened a large ring on her finger and emptied a reddish powder into the wine. Oh, no. Come, come, said Milady, raising the glass. Do as I do. Constance, in her excitement, drained the glass along with Milady. Just as they were putting down their glasses, they heard the sound of horses outside the convent. Constance rose to go to the window, but immediately fell to her knees and turned pale. Milady, however, hurried to the window and recognized the plumed hats and red cloaks of the Musketeers. She returned from the window and rushed out of the room. Wait for me, gasped Constance as she tried to drag herself to the door. But she managed only to go a few inches before she sank to the floor, unable to hear her name being called or the sound of boots rushing up the stairs. Oh, no. D'Artagnan burst into the room, followed by his friends. He fell to his knees and lifted the woman he loved to his arms. He covered her face with kisses, but her cold lips did not return them. Oh, no. Porthos shouted for help at the top of his lungs. Aramis ran to the table to pour some water for the woman, but he was stopped by the sight of Athos standing at the table and gazing with horror at an empty wine glass in his hands. Oh, God, said Athos, lifting his eyes to the heavens, how could you permit this crime? Then he walked slowly to D'Artagnan, who still clung to the lifeless body in his arms. Athos lifted him up gently, and D'Artagnan buried his face in his friend's chest and broke into tears. My friend, said Athos, be a man. Women weep for the dead. Men avenge them. Oh, D'Artagnan broke away from Athos and cried, then after them, first Rochefort, then Milady. No, said Athos, I shall take care of myself. That vengeance is mine. A husband owes that much to his wife. Oh my goodness. Porthos and Aramis looked at Athos, stunned. His wife? But D'Artagnan nodded. Yes, this vengeance did belong to Athos. D'Artagnan ran down into the courtyard and dragged Rochefort from the carriage. You murderer! He screamed. You shall pay for your crimes. And there began the most terrible clashing of swords ever to be seen in the history of France. From the courtyard to the chapel, up the stairs and down, along stone corridors and inside rooms, the two men fought like tigers. 10 minutes, 20 minutes, 30 minutes, and then Rochefort's sword silenced. D'Artagnan's in two. Oh, then Rochefort's sword sliced D'Artagnan's in two. Oh my goodness. But even this did not stop the enraged Gascon. With the cut-off sword in his hand and murder in his heart, oh my goodness, D'Artagnan lunged at Rochefort, sending the stump of the sword into Rochefort's chest and out through his back. Both men fell, Rochefort dead and D'Artagnan gasping for breath. Porthos and Aramis came running to help. Meanwhile, Milady, who had been watching this terrible duel from a doorway and waiting for her chance to get out unnoticed, rushed to the carriage. Just as she was about to climb in, she felt a pistol pressed against the back of her head. Oh my goodness. You won't need a carriage where you're going, milady, said Athos coldly. I warned you, did I not? What is going to happen? Oh, we just better continue this. Chapter 14. The Execution. Athos bound Milady's hand and foot and locked her inside the carriage. Guard her well, my friends, he said to Porthos, Aramis, and D'Artagnan. She must not escape us this time. I have some business which will take me away for 2 hours. The three men looked at Athos puzzled, but none would dare question him now. True to his word, Athos returned 2 hours later, accompanied by a tall man in a red cloak. A black mask covered his face. Athos waved for his friends to follow him with the carriage. They rode in silence for several miles until they reached the banks of a river, where they stopped and dismounted. The masked man went to the carriage and dragged Milady to the river bank, where the others waited. What do you want with me? She cried to the four men. We are here to judge your crimes, milady, said Athos coldly. D'Artagnan, you first. D'Artagnan stepped forward. I accuse this woman of poisoning Constance Bonacieux and trying to poison me with wine sent from the Red Dove Inn. God save me, but another man, a brave guard of the king, died in my place. Then Porthos stepped forward. I accuse this woman of arranging the murder of the Duke of Buckingham. Next came Aramis. I accuse this woman of the death of John Felton, who has been hung because of this Spanish woman. Now it is my turn, said Athos, trembling. I married this woman against the wishes of my family. I gave her my name, my love, and my wealth. Then I discovered she was branded. You cannot prove the crime for which I was branded, cried Milady. You cannot find the man who branded me. Silence, said the voice. It is my turn. Who are you? Cried Milady, as all eyes turned to the masked man. The man walked in front of Milady and slowly removed the mask. Milady studied his pale face, hard, cold eyes, and smooth-shaven head. Then suddenly she screamed in terror, "Oh, no, no, no! The executioner of Lille! The man who branded me!" Athos was as stunned as his friends. He knew this man simply as the executioner of this province. He had no idea when he hired him that the man knew Milady. It's a good thing. This is getting out of hand. "Yes, I was once the executioner of Lily," said the man. "And here is my story. This woman was once in training to be a nun. The young priest who was instructing her fell under the spell of her beauty and her charm. She managed to lure him away from the church with her promises of love. They had no money when they ran away, so they stole the sacred treasures of the church and sold them. But they were caught and arrested. This woman lured her jailer away from his duties and persuaded him to let her escape. But the young priest was sentenced to 10 years in prison, into the branding iron. As the executioner of Lily, I had to brand the guilty man. My brother. So you... Jeez. I swore that this woman should be punished as well, so I tracked her down and branded her with the same fleur-de-lis I had put on my brother. In the meantime, my brother had escaped from jail, and I was accused of helping him. So I was sentenced to take his place in irons. My brother did not know of this, so he rejoined the woman, and they settled in the small village where they lived as sister and brother while he worked at the church. The great lord of the province fell in love with her, and she left the priest to become the rich and titled Countess de la Fere. All eyes turned to Athos, who nodded that this was the truth. The executioner continued, "My brother could not bear his shame, so he left the village and returned to Lille, where he heard that I was in irons. For him, he gave himself up. That very night, he hung himself." Oh, man. These were her crimes. This is why she was branded. Athos stepped forward. "Gentlemen, you have heard the crimes this woman has committed. What is your sentence?" "Death," said Porthos. "Death," said Aramis. "Death," said D'Artagnan. "Death," said the executioner of Lily. "And death, say I," said Athos. "Oh, my goodness, I couldn't live with that." Milady uttered a dreadful scream and fell to her knees. The executioner lifted her up and carried her to a small boat tied up on the bank. She kicked and fought, crying out, "You are not my judges, you're murderers!" Milady's cries were so piercing that they reached D'Artagnan's heart. He started to move towards her when a strong grip on his arm stopped him. "Take one more step, D'Artagnan," said Athos, "and we will cross swords. And this time, I swear to God, I will kill you." Oh my goodness, these are some harsh words. This is getting all kinds of crazy. When the boat reached the opposite shore, the executioner threw his prisoner down on her knees. He raised his great sword above his head, then brought it down with all his strength. A terrible cry echoed across the river as he killed the evil Milady. Whew, that's heavy. I couldn't do it. I couldn't do it. That's why they have prisons. It's a good thing they have prisons now. The executioner took off his cloak and spun it out on the ground. He placed the remains of the body on it and tied it in four corners, and he tossed the bundle over his shoulders and returned to the boat. Guess he was going to bury her. He rowed in the middle of the river and then stopped. He stood and he raised the bundle above the water. "Let the justice of God be done," he cried. And he dropped the bundle into the water and watched as it sank to the bottom. 4 men on the bank removed their hats and said a prayer. Whew, that was heavy stuff. It's a good thing we got a system of justice with juries and all that. Woo, 3 Musketeers could have used that. I wouldn't be able to do it. Anyways, well, she won't hurt them anymore. She won't hurt anybody else anymore. Our adventure is almost over. Shall we finish it up? See if my computer has it to do it. Chapter 15. The 4 Musketeers. The 4 Musketeers. Paris was celebrating the great victory at La Rochelle when D'Artagnan and the 3 Musketeers entered the city. They approached the gates of the palace. They were stopped by the force of the cardinal's guards. "Monsieur D'Artagnan," said the leader, "in the name of his eminence, I arrest you. I have orders to bring you to the cardinal immediately." "Do not fear, my friend," said Athos. "We shall accompany you." to Richelieu. The guards led D'Artagnan into the cardinal's study, but stopped his three friends at the door. "We shall wait for you, D'Artagnan," said Athos, loud enough for the cardinal to hear. D'Artagnan stood facing the cardinal across the table. This was his first meeting with Richelieu, and he feared his last. "Monsieur," said the cardinal, "I had hoped one day to hold out my hand in friendship and in praises of your bravery, but I cannot do so now, for you are charged with the murder of a trusted servant of France." "That woman was guilty of many crimes," said D'Artagnan, "including murder. Not once, but many times over. I only repaid her for her crimes." "So you did, and Rochefort too. That was quite an accomplishment for a young Gascon. But your victories are too costly, sir, both for me and for France. You shall have to pay for your crimes with your life." "I think not, monsieur," said D'Artagnan, with a smile. "I have a proper warrant for all that I have done." "A warrant?" said Richelieu, in surprise. "Signed by whom?" "By your eminence," said D'Artagnan, as he held out the papers which Athos had taken from Milady at the Red Divan. Richelieu took the paper and read it. "It is by my orders and for the good of France that the bearer of this letter has done what he has done. December 3rd, 1627. Richelieu." After he had finished reading, Richelieu sat in a deep thought for several minutes, twisting and untwisting the paper in his hands. Then he looked up and smiled. "One should be more careful with one puts on paper," he said, tearing the warrant to bits. Then he picked up his pen and began writing on a large sheet of parchment. "I am lost," thought D'Artagnan. "He is writing my death order, but I shall die bravely." "Here, sir," said the cardinal, handing the parchment to D'Artagnan. "Why, it's a commission as lieutenant in the king's Musketeers." "Right?" "Yes, monsieur," said the cardinal. "Simply fill in your name." "Oh, monsieur," cried D'Artagnan, falling to his knees, "I do not deserve such a commission. Serving as a private in the Musketeers would be reward enough for me. I have three friends who are much more worthy of a lieutenant's commission than I. Well, do what you like with it, sir, but remember that it is you that I give it. Now, good day, Monsieur D'Artagnan." D'Artagnan left the room in a daze. "Are you all right, my friend?" cried Athos, and D'Artagnan stumbled through the doorway. Yes," stammered D'Artagnan. "Look, Athos, the cardinal gave me this commission, but I can't take it. It should go to you." Athos smiled warmly and replied, "My dear friend, this commission is far too much for a common soldier like Athos, and far too little for the Count de la Feur. You have earned it. You keep it." D'Artagnan pushed the parchment at Porthos. "And you, my friend," he said, "just think how splendid you will look in a lieutenant's uniform." "My dear friend," said Porthos, handing the commission back to D'Artagnan, "I shall soon be wearing the clothing of a nobleman, for my dear Duchess has just come into a sizable sum of money. She has been waiting for me for years, and now I shall marry her and take care of her. And the money? So keep the lieutenancy. It is not something for a nobleman." "You!" cried D'Artagnan, pushing the commission at Aramis. "You are a man of education and wisdom, and you are far more worthy of this lieutenancy than I am." "My dear friend," said Aramis, "you forget that I am a musketeer only temporarily. I still plan on joining the priesthood when I have the time." "No, keep the commission. You will make a brave and daring lieutenant." "But my friends," cried D'Artagnan, "if I accept this commission and become an officer, I shall lose all my friends. An officer does not have friends." "Never fear," said Athos, as he wrote D'Artagnan's name on the blank line of the parchment. "Even though we are now the four musketeers, we shall always be one for all and all for one." "Yes!" they shouted together, crossing their swords. "One for all and all for one." The end. Bleffin. What an exciting, awesome book. Oh my goodness, things got out of hand. I'm glad they have courts nowadays. Woo! I can't wait to pick out and read the next book. If you got a suggestion, man, You let me know, all right? And I'll find the book and we can read it together. I love you. I miss you. Don't behave like any of those people did, all right? It's just a novel. I love you. I hope you enjoyed it. And I'll talk to you soon, but not soon enough.